Before arrays, if you needed to store 100 student marks, you would have to declare 100 separate variables, mark 1, mark 2, and so on up to mark 100. That is completely impractical. Arrays solve this by letting you store multiple values of the same type under a single variable name, accessed by an index number. Looking at the diagram, the Java array family is divided into clear categories. One-dimensional arrays are simple linear lists, like a single row of boxes. Two-dimensional arrays are like a table with rows and columns. Multidimensional arrays extend this to 3 dimensions and beyond. Jagged arrays are special two-dimensional arrays where each row can have a different number of columns. And the arrays utility class provides ready-made methods to sort, search, and manipulate arrays. Every array in Java is an object. It lives in heap memory and comes with a built-in .length property that tells you how many elements it can hold. Array indexing always starts at 0. The first element is at index 0 and the last element is at index length -1. Trying to access an index outside this range throws an arrayIndex out-of-bounds exception at runtime, which is one of the most common errors in Java programming. Understanding arrays deeply is foundational because collections, matrices, and most data structures are built on top of array concepts. A one-dimensional array is the simplest form of array. Think of it as a row of numbered boxes, each box holding one value. All boxes are of the same type and each box has an address called an index starting from 0. There are 3 ways to declare and initialize a one-dimensional array in Java, and the diagram shows all 3 clearly. The first way is declaration and creation separately. You write int followed by brackets and the variable name marks, then on the next line marks equals new int with the size 5 in brackets. This creates the array in heap memory with 5 slots. At this point, all slots hold the default value 0 for integers. The second way combines both steps into one line. Int followed by brackets marks equals new int with 5 in brackets. The third way is array literal initialization. You write int followed by brackets marks equals then open curly braces, then the values 85, 92, 78, 95, and 88, then close curly braces. Here you provide values directly and Java automatically determines the size. This is the most concise form and preferred when values are known at the time of writing. Looking at the diagram, the memory representation shows 5 boxes in a row labeled index 0 through 4, each containing a value. The variable marks is a reference variable stored in stack memory that holds the memory address of the array object in heap memory. This is a crucial concept. When you write int followed by brackets b equals marks, you are not copying the array. You are copying the reference, meaning the address, so both b and marks point to the same array in the heap. Modifying through b also modifies what marks sees. The .length property gives the total number of elements. Always use marks.length in loop conditions instead of hard-coding the size. This makes your code flexible and prevents bugs if the array size changes later. This program demonstrates a practical one-dimensional array usage by computing the sum, maximum, minimum, and average of 5 integers. An integer array named nums is initialized with the values 10, 30, 20, 50, and 40. 3 integer variables are then declared. Sum is set to 0 as the accumulator. Max is set to nums at index 0, which is 10. Min is also set to nums at index 0, which is 10. Starting both max and min at the first element of the array is the correct approach. Starting max at 0 could give a wrong answer if all values were negative. Starting min at 0 could give a wrong answer if all values were positive. Using the actual first array element guarantees the initial comparison value is always a real piece of data. The for each loop iterates through each element in nums. The variable n receives a copy of each element in order 10, 30, 20, 50, 40. Sum plus equals and runs 5 times, accumulating the total. 0 plus 10 gives 10, then 10 plus 30 gives 40, then 40 plus 20 gives 60, then 60 plus 50 gives 110, then 110 plus 40 gives 150. The if statement checking n greater than max updates max whenever a larger value is found. Tracing through, max starts at 10, then 30 beats 10 so max becomes 30, then 20 does not beat 30 so max stays 30, then 50 beats 30 so max becomes 50, then 40 does not beat 50 so max stays 50. The if statement checking n less than min updates min whenever a smaller value is found. 10 is already the smallest, so min never changes and stays 10 throughout all 5 iterations. After the loop, the first println prints sum, 150. The second prints max, 50. The third prints min, 10. The fourth performs integer division of sum divided by nums.length, which is 150 divided by 5, giving 30 exactly. It prints average, 30. A two-dimensional array is best understood as a table with rows and columns. Internally in Java, a two-dimensional array is actually an array of one-dimensional arrays. The outer array holds references to multiple inner arrays and each inner array is one row. This distinction matters for understanding how Java stores them in memory. Declaration follows the same pattern as a one-dimensional array but with 2 sets of brackets. Writing int double brackets matrix equals new int with 3 rows and 4 columns creates a table with 3 rows and 4 columns, giving 12 total elements. You can also initialize directly using nested curly braces. Writing int double brackets matrix equals open curly braces 1, 2, 3 close curly braces, then open curly braces 4, 5, 6 close curly braces, then open curly braces 7, 8, 9 close curly braces creates a 3 by 3 grid with values already filled in. Looking at the diagram, the two-dimensional array is visualized as a grid where rows run horizontally and columns run vertically. To access any element you need both coordinates. Matrix at row, kernel, so matrix at 0, 0 is the top left element and matrix at 1, 2 is row 1 column 2, meaning the second row third element. To traverse all elements you need nested loops. An outer loop for rows and an inner loop for columns. Matrix.length gives the number of rows and matrix at index 0.length gives the number of columns in the first row. This two-index nested loop pattern is fundamental to matrix operations, game boards, image processing, and any grid-based data structure. This program declares a 3 by 3 integer matrix, prints it, computes the total sum of all elements, builds its transpose, and prints the transpose using a for each loop. The integer two-dimensional array matrix is initialized with 3 inner arrays representing 3 rows. Row 0 contains 1, 2, 3, row 1 contains 4, 5, 6, row 2 contains 7, 8, 9. On the heap, matrix is an outer array holding 3 references, each pointing to one inner row array. A second two-dimensional array named transpose is created with 3 rows and 3 columns. Java fills all 12 slots with the default value 0. An integer sum starts at 0. The outer for loop uses I to represent the row index, running from 0 to less than matrix.length, which is 3. The inner for loop uses j to represent the column index, running from 0 to less than matrix at index 0.length, which is also 3. For every element at position I, j, 3 things happen inside the inner loop. First, Matrix at I, J is printed followed by a tab character for spacing. Second, the element is added to sum. Third, the element is written to transpose at J, I. Notice the row and column indices are swapped. This is the definition of a matrix transpose. The element at row I column J in the original goes to row J column I in the transpose. For example, matrix at 0, 1 is the value 2, and it goes to transpose at 1, 0. After the inner loop finishes one row, system.out.println with no arguments prints a blank line, pushing output to the next line before the next row begins. Without this, the entire matrix would print on one line. After both loops finish, sum contains 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9, which equals 45. The println prints sum, 45. The outer for each on transpose assigns each inner array to the variable row 1 at a time. The inner for each assigns each integer in that row to val. The print and println calls reproduce the transpose grid. The original matrix prints as 3 rows of 1 to 3, then 4 5 6, then 7 8 9. The transpose prints as 3 rows of 1 4 7, then 2 5 8, then 3 6 9, confirming that every column of the original became a row in the transpose. Once you understand that a two-dimensional array is an array of one-dimensional arrays, the concept extends naturally. A three-dimensional array is an array of two-dimensional arrays. Think of it as a stack of matrices or a cube of data. A four-dimensional array is an array of three-dimensional arrays, and Java technically supports as many dimensions as memory allows. The most intuitive real-world model for a three-dimensional array is a building. The first dimension is the floor number, the second is the row number on that floor, and the third is the seat number in that row. Seats at 2, 3, 5 means floor 2, row 3, seat 5. Another excellent example is RGB image data. A color image can be stored as image with dimensions height, width, and 3, where the third dimension holds the red, green, and blue channel values for each pixel. Looking at the diagram, a three-dimensional array is visualized as multiple two-dimensional grids stacked behind each other, like pages of a book. Array 0 gives the first page, meaning the first two-dimensional grid. Array 0, 1 gives row 1 of that page. Array 0, 1, 2 gives the specific element at row 1, column 2 of page 0. To traverse a three-dimensional array, you need 3 nested loops, 1 for each dimension. In practice, arrays beyond 3 dimensions are rare and difficult to visualize or debug. Most real-world problems can be modeled with one-dimensional, two-dimensional, or at most three-dimensional arrays. But knowing the pattern exists helps you understand how Java's array system scales in theory. Understanding how arrays are stored in memory is one of the most important concepts in Java. It explains why certain operations behave the way they do, especially when passing arrays to methods or copying arrays. When you declare an integer array and initialize it with the values 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50, two things happen in memory simultaneously. In stack memory, a reference variable array is created. It does not store the array values. It stores the memory address of where the array lives in the heap. In heap memory, the actual array object is created with all 5 elements stored in contiguous, meaning adjacent, memory locations. If element 0 is at address 1000, element 1 is at 1004, which is 4 bytes later for an int, element 2 is at 1008, and so on. This contiguous layout is why array access is so fast. To find the element at index I, Java calculates base address plus I multiplied by element size in a single arithmetic operation, giving constant time access regardless of array size. No searching is needed. Looking at the diagram, The critical concept of reference copying versus value copying is illustrated. When you write int brackets b equals r, you are copying the reference from the stack. Both r and b now point to the same heap array. Changing b at index 0 to 99 also changes what you see via r at index 0, because they are the same object in the heap. This is called a shallow copy. If you want a completely independent copy, you must use arrays.copyof or system.arrayCopy. These create a brand new array in the heap with the same values, so changes to one do not affect the other. This is called a deep copy. Understanding this reference behavior is fundamental to avoiding subtle bugs when passing arrays to methods, because Java passes the reference, so the method can modify the original array's contents through that reference. In a regular two-dimensional array, every row has the same number of columns. It is a perfect rectangle. A jagged array breaks this restriction. Each row is an independent one-dimensional array that can have its own length. This is possible because of how Java stores two-dimensional arrays internally as an array of references to individual row arrays. In a normal two-dimensional array, those row arrays are all forced to the same size. In a jagged array, you create each row separately with its own chosen size. The declaration pattern makes this clear. Writing int double brackets jagged equals new int with 3 in the first set of brackets and empty second brackets creates the outer array with 3 slots for row references, but the rows themselves do not exist yet. Their slots hold null. Then you create each row individually. Jagged at index 0 equals new int of size 1 gives row 0 just one element. Jagged at index 1 equals new int of size 2 gives row 1 2 elements. Jagged at index 2 equals new int of size 3 gives row 2 3 elements. The result is a triangular staircase shape. Looking at the diagram, the jagged structure is immediately visible. Row 0 is shorter than row 1, which is shorter than row 2, creating a staircase pattern. Each row is a completely independent array in the heap with its own size. Jagged arrays are more memory efficient than regular two-dimensional arrays when rows genuinely have different sizes. Using a regular two-dimensional array would force you to allocate the maximum column count for every row, wasting memory for shorter rows. Real-world use cases include storing a Pascal's triangle where each row has one more element than the previous, storing adjacency lists for graphs where each node has a different number of neighbors, and storing variable length records like each student's list of courses where different students take different numbers of courses. The Arrays class in Java.util is a complete toolkit of pre-built operations for arrays. Without it, you would have to manually write sorting algorithms, search loops, and comparison logic from scratch every single time. It contains only static methods. You never create an arrays object. You just call arrays.methodName directly from anywhere after importing java.util.arrays. Looking at the diagram table, all major methods are shown with their purpose. Arrays.sortOffer sorts the array in place, meaning it modifies the original array directly, in ascending order using a highly optimized dual-pivot quicksort algorithm for primitives, giving n-log-n performance. After sorting, arrays.binary search offer and key can search for a value in logarithmic time. But the array must be sorted first, otherwise the result is unpredictable and meaningless. Arrays.fillOffer and value fills every element of the array with the same value, useful for resetting or initializing arrays quickly. Arrays.copyOfOffer and newLength creates a brand new independent array, a true deep copy, of the original up to the specified length. If newLength is larger than the original, extra slots are filled with default values, which is 0 for int and null for objects. Arrays.copyOfRangeOffer, from, and to copies only a portion, from the index named from inclusive to the index named to exclusive. Arrays dot equals of AR1 and AR2 compares to arrays element by element and returns true only if they have identical length and identical values at every position. This is completely different from double equals, which only checks if both references point to the exact same heap object. And arrays dot toString of AR converts the array to a clean readable string like open bracket 85, 92, 78 close bracket. This is invaluable for debugging because printing an array directly gives a cryptic memory address that tells you nothing useful. Thank you.